DeepStar Six is one of 4 underwater creature features that came out in 1989. The other 3 being Leviathan, which we just watched, James Cameron's The Abyss, and Lords of the Deep. DeepStar Six came out first, January 13th, and being that they all came out in the same year, I kind of find it unlikely that they all copied each other. I guess 1989 was just the year of underwater monster movies. It opens up with this movie's love interest, McBride and Collins. They talk about how he'll never settle down and get married and blah blah blah. Where's the monster? I don't care about these 2 lovebirds. Next, we meet the whole Deep Star Six crew. What is it that they do? Well, it seems like they've been contracted by the Navy to build an underwater missile silo, or something like that. Their shift is just about up, having spent around 6 months down here, never seeing the sun. Hey, Matt McCoy's in this movie. Yeah, as the maintenance guy. He went from fighting underwater monsters in this movie to saving Sasquatch in Bigfoot: The Unforgettable Encounter. Anyway, on the main vessel we meet the captain, Laidlaw, who lays down the law. He's the one in charge, and nothing happens without his approval. For example, while the crew is working on the ocean floor, they found a cavern under the dig site. Van Gelder says it's too late for them to move to a different site, so Laidlaw has to make the decision to blow up the cavern to give them the solid foundation that they need. Scarpelli is the one on board who seems to be the resident biologist. When she catches wind that they found an underwater cavern, she's super excited, thinking that there might be something undocumented living down there. She requests to go in and take a look, but they only have 1 week to get the job done, so there just isn't time. And the captain's word is final.
It's not safe. I'm sorry.
She can't go down there anyway because they've already prepared the bomb and detonated it. The ocean floor drops, and luckily, the men in the underwater bulldozer make it away just fine.
Yeah, we're okay. As soon as I scrape out my drawers.
They launch a probe to go in and take a quick peek around. After seeing what looks like a whole new world,
It's like another world.
they lose contact with the probe. Not wanting to get an earful for losing a $1 million piece of machinery, the guys decide to head on in and retrieve it for themselves. It's not long before something big shows up on their sonar, and it's coming right for them. The sister ship that was working with the crew sees the same thing on their sonar and prepares for impact as it smashes into their ship. It's not looking good for them, but hey, at least they're alive. Having lost communications with them, Laidlaw, back at the main ship, decides to go out and see what happened. He and McBride load up into a sub and take off, but then they see the same thing on their sonar. Luckily, McBride is smart enough to kill power and shut off the lights, so whatever's out there can't see them. Their plan works, and eventually they make it to their friends. They manage to dock and head on in, only to see that the ship is in rough condition, without even enough power to open the door, so they have to manually twist it open. As they do, McBride sees Collins and rushes in to save her. However, the other guy, well, he isn't going to make it. What was his name again? Oh, well, he's dead, so it must not have been that important. As they all escape back to the sub, the door's coming loose, and it slams shut right on the captain's legs. Ouch! Knowing that he isn't going to make it, but also knowing that the ship is about to fall off a cliff and his friends won't leave him here, Laidlaw floods the ship, forcing McBride and Collins to escape as their captain dies. They make it back to the DeepStar Six crew and tell them what happened, how something attacked their ship. All they know is that it was fast and huge. Norris, the ship's doctor, checks on Collins to make sure that she's okay, and she makes a startling discovery.
What was that?
2 heartbeats. She's pregnant with McBride's baby.
That was our baby's heartbeat.
You are the father!
There is some good news to all this. Given all that has happened, their mission is over, and they get to head home. But first, they need to secure the missiles before they leave, and they ask Snyder to do it.
Just do it.
Now, here's where things go from bad to much worse. Snyder is following protocol, which is basically tell the computer what's happening and do whatever it says. But that's just a computer, and he's a human. He should know that when it says to do something like, I don't know, detonate the missiles, that maybe that's not the same thing as securing them. The computer asks if what attacked the ship used aggression. So he says yes, it did, and that triggers the launch command. But he still pushes the button. It's his fault for not using common sense, and the nuclear missiles blow up. As the shockwave hits the ship, everyone is tossed and turned and equipment goes flying. They're really screwed now. As if a giant prehistoric underwater monster isn't enough, now they have to worry about nukes. Well, they managed to save the ship from completely caving in on itself. But that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage!
Most importantly, the decompression chamber's ruined, which they would need so they don't explode as they go up to the surface. The ship's oxygen supply is now limited to just the ambient air, and the coolant for the reactor powering the ship has gone down. So in about 10 hours, it's going to overheat and explode. So that's nice. Their only hope is to reroute some things so that they can get the decompression chamber back up. Then they can load up in the escape pod and head home free. That's their plan, and they start working immediately, with Richardson going out into the ocean to make repairs on the outside of the ship. But he's not alone. They hear him yelling, but it's breaking up. That's when they see him back in the airlock.
Say again, please.
He's freaking out big time. They lift him up and out, but there's something else in there with him. Finally, an hour in, we get to see the monster. Hey, it's not too bad looking either. It kind of looks like a crab or something. I like it. They continue to lift Richardson up, and we can see that he's now half the man he used to be. Scarpelli also falls into the water, so she's toast. Everyone else makes it to safety, and the monster quiets down, giving them a chance to all think for a minute. They still need to finish their work on the decompression chamber, but that means they need to go back into the room where the monster is. So they arm up with guns and harpoons. But these harpoons have a special tip equipped with a CO2 tank that'll fill the enemy with air. Why a mining rig has something like this is anyone's guess, but it'll come in handy now.
Okay, it works.
They go into the room to finish the repairs, and now it's quiet. McBride is able to connect the hose, and it's a job well done. But then, just as you would expect, the creature shows up. In all the excitement, Van Gelder accidentally backs into Snyder's harpoon and literally blows himself up. Oops. Well, Snyder freaks out, runs away, and the rest escape too. Now all they have to do is wait for the decompression to finish, then they can leave in the escape pod. But Snyder's freaking out hardcore. I mean, setting off an underwater nuke and now killing a guy would be a bad day for anyone. So he jumps into the lifeboat and makes his escape, abandoning everyone else, and sealing his own fate. Because, not being decompressed, he shoots up to the surface, and his body pops like a balloon. Now it's just Norris, Collins, and McBride. And, well, without an escape pod, they're kind of screwed. So, McBride proposes. Hey, good timing, buddy. You're all about to die anyway, so why not? But then he comes up with an idea. There's still the sub outside. If he could get to it, bring it over to the decompression chamber, then they could make their escape. So, that's what he does. While he's out swimming around, the girls have their own problems, because they aren't alone anymore. Norris turns on a bunch of lights to try to distract it as McBride returns with the sub. But the room is vacuum sealed and he can't get in. So Norris is left to fight the monster. She doesn't want to be the third wheel in this relationship anyway, so she sacrifices herself by electrocuting the monster in the water, which seems to at least knock out the creature. Collins and McBride finally finish in the decompression chamber and load up in the sub, without much time to spare, because the reactor's still overheating and about to blow. They load up and head out just as the ship explodes, and they finally make it to the surface to see the sun again for the first time in months.
Spanish ship.
My pleasure.
But I noticed there's still 6 minutes left in this movie, so you know what that means. The monster isn't dead, and it comes up to the surface for blood. McBride blows up the gas tank, which causes the sub to go up in flames, killing the monster and McBride. No, of course not. Somehow, he's just fine, and they paddle off into the ocean to probably die of exposure 3 days later. And that was DeepStar Six. I'll be honest, I went in with pretty low expectations, and I think that's the right mindset to have while watching this movie. Now, not to say that it's bad, it's just a creature feature that takes place in the ocean, but really, the monster's only half the problem. Once Snyder blew up those missiles, that's when it all hit the fan. If he would have thought for just 1 second and said, maybe I shouldn't blow up these nuclear warheads, they probably would have been just fine. But then that wouldn't have made for a very entertaining movie, I guess. Unlike Leviathan, I'm not getting huge alien vibes here, so I wouldn't say DeepStar Six is a ripoff of anything in particular, but there certainly isn't anything original going on here. It was directed by Sean Cunningham, who's more famous for producing the Friday the 13th series, and a little bit of that horror came into play here. When Snyder popped like a balloon, that was nasty. As for the creature, I actually really liked the design of it. It looked like an undiscovered sea monster. So, do I recommend DeepStar Six? Well, yeah, it's okay. The beginning is a little boring. You don't see the monster until about an hour in, but all in all, it's entertaining. I give it 2 accidental harpoon stabbings out of 4.
Umbilicals?
Clear. Check.
Henway?
Henway ready. Wait. What's a Henway?
Oh, about 3 to 4 pounds.